happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July to everybody out there. For all of you that are tuning in today live on the live portion of this, we really appreciate it. There's no doubt there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of people taking a 4-day weekend. I really, really hope you're combining some scouting in on this 4-day weekend. It's a great time to get out there. There's a lot of people in the woods. There's no doubt about that. But it's a great time to incorporate, some of that time off and those breaks, and incorporate into some of your scouting. Whether it's a couple hours a day or spending the whole weekend after. So hope everybody's out there scouting. For everybody's gonna be watching this later, again, hopefully you did have a good scouting mission, and we're gonna kind of walk you through it. But again, our cameras are live now. I am Nate Zielinski. Huge thanks to Bowtech for letting us go live on their page. You might also be watching this on the Diamond Facebook page, as well as the Tightline Outdoors Facebook page and the Nate Zielinski Facebook page. If you guys aren't a follower of the Nate Zielinski page, it's a brand new page. Make sure you follow that. We're going to be doing a lot more on that, especially as we come up in this hunting season. That'll kind of be the source for all of our hunts and up-to-date stuff like that. So make sure you give all of those a like. We are in phase 2 of our major big game scouting. A huge focus on elk and deer in the Rocky Mountain region, but really any of this stuff's going to take you countrywide and some tips to make you a better hunter this coming fall. But again, we are in phase 2. Phase 1 is all about learning the land, the terrain, which we're going to talk about that again tonight, just a little bit and tying it into the animals. But phase 2 is really about learning the animals. We're starting to see maturity. We're starting to see antler growth. We're really starting to see these animals in the situations and the areas in which we'll be hunting them this coming fall. So we're really trying to put a big emphasis on the animals and learning everything about those animals, just to have that higher education to be successful this coming fall. But while everybody's just kind of joining here, before I actually get started on the topic, we're going to be talking about 3 styles and, more importantly, 3 scenarios that you might be running into this fall, and things really we talked to over the last week. We talked to a lot of hunters all across the Rocky Mountain region. We talked to guys in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, Arizona about their upcoming hunts, and we kind of got some input and some questions on that. So we're going to definitely follow up with that and kind of talk about that. But a lot of people have been talking about my personal hunts. They're like, hey Nate, what tags do you have? What are you doing this fall? Obviously, we've been talking about scouting, but I haven't necessarily talked to you about my personal hunt. So I got a lot of stuff going on this fall. Got some great tags. I got a pronghorn tag starting in August. I'm really excited for. I have a bear tag in September. Then I have a deer and an elk tag that's coming fall. So got a lot of tag opportunities, a lot of hunts. I've also been very fortunate to have a couple good friends of mine draw some sheep tags. So I actually know 3 guys here in Colorado actually that drew sheep tags, and I'll be joining on their hunts as much as I possibly can. I've been doing a lot of scouting with them as well. So it's going to be a busy fall. We'll follow up all the big game stuff with a lion hunt at the end of the season. So in total this coming fall, which I hopefully you guys will follow me on, in total, my wife, family, friends, everybody out in the woods with, we'll be on about 18 big game hunts this coming fall. A lot of elk, a lot of mule deer. But again, we'll be taking you with us, so hopefully you can join in all that, and hopefully we'll see some big animals and put them on the ground. So first off, we're going to talk about the exact scouting that I've been done. So talk about the sheep tag. Again, we're excited about this. There's 3 sheep tags, 2 rifle tags, 1 bow tag. I think one's actually going to roll into a bow tag, so probably 2 archery hunts, 1 rifle hunt. But sheep are one of those unique animals. Everybody waits so many years to draw these tags. You can buy tags in a lot of guided situations, but a lot of other people are just doing a draw. Basically a lotto system to try to get that once in a lifetime sheep tag. Or some people that are really lucky, maybe get a handful of them. But regardless, it's a fun hunt. Now, the people that I have or that I'm hunting with this fall that have sheep tags got a couple of different areas. We have one friend who's got a tag in some higher country. So, the lower elevation in the area that he can hunt is about 9,000 feet, and you get all the way up to 14,000 feet on the higher elevation within that unit. And it's kind of a neat thing where really, for the most part, these sheep here in the wintertime spend a lot of time in the trees and kind of in the lower country, which is somewhat unique for some sheep, but again, they spend it in that lower country. In the early spring, when everybody starts scouting for them in April, May, early June, even middle of June, a lot of these big sheep are in the timber, and it's hard to deal with scouting because you can't see them. They are literally tucked into the timber. It's really hard to see them. But as we go, as our temperatures warm up, we're in the middle of summer, all of a sudden the high country, say that 13,000 feet, 12,000 feet even, it had snow on it up until a week ago. So that snow is starting to shed. Underneath that snow, you have got some very luscious, very nutritional green grass. So literally on a daily basis, sheep are coming out of the timber, coming up in this higher country. So it's one of those things where you scout one weekend and you see a couple of sheep, but you're kind of, you're getting a little frustrated. Hey, I haven't found a big one, or I haven't found one in an area that I can physically get to, or whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden you go the next week and there's 10 more of them, or they've moved. It's literally a changing game up until about the third week of July. Third week of July, things kind of stable out. That's where all the grass will be current. Most of the snow will be gone. That's going to be gone for this year before we start getting more snow in August. So again, it's really about that third week, but a lot of times this tag is going to start that first week of August. So it really can limit you on time. So you really have to be on your toes in that scouting situation, finding the right animals, keeping up with the animals that you already found, and then looking for new animals. So been taking part of a lot of that. We also have some other units that have been looking for sheep that get down as low as about 6,000 feet in elevation, and high country would be about 12,000. So you got a lot of variance there. And these sheep there have been hanging around. It's a little lower in elevation, like we just talked about. So the extreme temperatures, the 90 degrees during the day gets to these areas. And a lot of these sheep have been hanging actually by water, hanging along rivers, basically, or creeks. And the whole idea there is food. At the end of the day, it all comes back to food. So they're coming right back to the food source to make sure that they get that green grass, make sure everything is very bright or very good green grass to make sure that they get all their nutrients. So again, it all comes down to the nutrients there, and those sheep are all about that and hanging there. So we're literally walking river bottoms, walking creek bottoms, looking for that green grass and making sure that we have that green grass. So a lot of opportunity with the sheep. The sheep is definitely keeping me on my toes. Again, I can't say that I've done enough of it. My lovely wife's harvested sheep. She's actually running the camera here. So I've been on some sheep hunts, but again, it's not something that you do, or I personally do. I've never been a sheep guide. I don't spend enough time doing it. So it's one of those things, it's a learning curve, and it's definitely keeping me on my toes helping out with these sheep hunts. As far as the pronghorn tag, the first time that I will actually have a weapon in the field is going to be early August, mid-August. At that point in time, these animals right now, they're at their I don't want to say their dumbest stage, but they're vulnerable. They don't care about anything. You can sneak up close to them. They're not really aware of a lot. As the rut starts getting closer this fall, as hunting season starts getting approaching this fall, is when these animals start moving around a little bit more and getting a little more moving around, a little more sketchy. So right now with those, I'm actually trying to figure out my system of hunting. Am I going to be using a decoy, hunting water, or spot and stock? Right now, the biggest bucks that I've seen are actually kind of on finger ridges. So they're on a big plains where there's a lot of little finger ridges coming down into these plains, and these animals are hanging right near there to where I actually might have a chance to do a spot and stock and sneak up on these animals. So we're excited about that. Our light's just about ready to fade out here. We're going to get our light fixed here real quick, and then we'll keep going. So sorry about that. But with that said, talking about all the opportunities there, we're talking about the pronghorn. So again, on that flat country there, the fingers are coming down. We're actually, you should have a good opportunity to walk down on these fingers and sneak up and actually get a spot and stock approach to sneak up on these animals. There we go. Hopefully it's a little bit brighter for you there. So the opportunity there, again, I'm learning the decoys, which decoys I can use. Do I want a cow decoy? Do I want a buffalo decoy? Do I want a pronghorn decoy? And what they're going to be let me use to. So I'm actually going out there with these decoys, playing around with the decoys and seeing how the pronghorns react. Do they let me sneak up with a cow decoy or a buffalo decoy or a donkey decoy or a pronghorn decoy? I'm watching the water holes. Right now there's a lot of water. Again, just basically all the moisture from early in the season. So there's quite a bit of water. We're going to dry up here as we get into July and August, and then we'll see if we get those fall rains. So water, I know where all the water holes are now. I'm watching them to see if they continue to exist or if they're going to dry up on us. So that's kind of how I'm at with the pronghorn. The elk and deer is going fantastic. They're almost in the exact spots where I'm going to hunt them this fall. Watching a lot of bulls, watching a lot of bucks. Actually, this is going to be what I would anticipate one of the better years for horn growth. We're seeing a lot of big bulls, a lot of big bucks. I mean, stuff to where, for it being early July, it's going to be fantastic. So really starting to just study each individual animal on both the deer and the elk side. I mean, I'm studying everything I got about it. I'm trying to learn behavior, attitude, and that type of stuff we'll talk about here later on. I also have a bear tag coming up this fall, the last tag that I personally will be hunting. The bears right now, it's hot out. There's no doubt. Wearing a giant fur coat in summer is exactly what it would seem like for these bears. So, 90% of the bear activity right now is at night. So everything I'm doing for the bear scouting, I'm walking around trying to get a good idea if we're going to have raspberries. Again, it's fairly warm out, fairly dry in most of the western country right now, so it's a hard gamble to say if we will have a good raspberry patch. Same thing with acorns. If we have a great acorn patch, that's going to totally dictate where I'm going to hunt this September. If we have good acorns, I'm going to be all over those acorn hillsides, the oak brush, and really putting a big focus on hunting those bears in that oak brush and in and out of that oak brush. Same thing with the raspberries. If we have good raspberries in the fall, we're hunting around those raspberries raspberry patches. If we don't have either of those, it kind of changes up the game. So right now we have trail cameras on all the water sources, just trying to learn how many bears are in the area, the size of the bears, how many sows and cubs we got, just kind of learning the general population of bears in the area. And then I'm also putting a big scouting mission on the food. We talked about that just a little bit, but again, watching the acorns, watching the raspberries, and as we get a little closer, if those continue to grow, we'll be hunting that. If those dissipate, we'll kind of change it up and probably hunt water. So either way, it's been a busy year for scouting so far. Between the sheep, elk, deer, pronghorn, and bear. So it's exciting seeing a lot of that. And over the next couple weeks, we'll start sharing some photos with you as we start kind of learning the animals that I'm going to chase, and we'll kind of walk you through that. We're also going to bring you some in-field footage over about the next month here. So we're excited about that. So make sure you always stay tuned. Now, again, if you're just joining us, I am Nate Zielinski. We're on the Bowtech Facebook page, the Diamond Facebook page, Tightline Outdoors, and Nate Zielinski. All right, so now that's been my scouting so far. I know that was long-winded, kind of fast. Just wanted to bring you up to date. I've been getting a lot of people asking what I personally have been doing. So, definitely, ask the questions. I've been doing a lot of scouting. So if you have questions about your personal scouting, your personal tag, the animals you're chasing, ask those questions on here. We'll definitely try to get to them here at the end of the show. So ask those questions away. We'd love to answer the questions. Again, phase 2. So the things that I've been getting over the last week since we started talking about the actual individual animal. Again, our focus now is learning the animals in the area. We should have learned all the terrain by now. The early stages of scouting, all of June, it was all about learning the terrain, learning the land, public-private access points, the bedding, the food, the overall grounds for water, everything that you're hunting. It's all about the ground and the land. So we've been putting a big focus on that early in the season. Now it's about the animal. Learn how many animals are in the area, what you think is a mature animal, an immature animal, rough counts on overall, females in the area. Just really learning the balance of the animals in the area in which you're hunting. So that's been our focus now. As we started talking about this, we had a lot of people say, well, that, my style of hunting or the situation I'm in is, X, Y, and Z. How do I encounter that? So I broke it down into 3 scenarios, and we're going to walk you through those 3 scenarios. Hopefully it fits in. If it doesn't fit your scenario, make sure you comment, and we'll walk you through your personal scenario. But number one, the person that really hit home with me, and they said, hey, me and my entire hunting group, there's 20 of us that spread out and kind of hunt everywhere, and all of us, we're busy working, we're hunting enthusiasts. We don't take it maybe as serious as we probably should. With that being said, we had people that we talked to that were low on time. They said, hey, I know I should scout 60% of my available time and hunt 40, because that's our number that we always preach. Again, of all your 100% of your hunting time, 60% should be dedicated to scouting, 40% to hunting. But these guys said, I know I should be doing that 60%. It's just not going to happen. I just don't have time. I work all summer. I'm in construction, whatever the case may be. I'm busy and I don't have time to scout. So I have to make the most of what I can do in the limited amount of time I have. One day a month, or one day every 6 weeks, whatever the case may be. I had that situation where guys are low on time. I also ran into a situation of guys saying, hey, I'm not about a trophy animal. I don't want a big animal. It's brown, it's down. If it's a legal bull, it's a legal buck. I'm taking the shot. I want meat on the table. I'm a first-time hunter, whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be a particular animal. What's the best ways to scout if I'm low on time or if I'm just hunting general animals? I don't want to pick an animal. I don't want to study an animal. I don't want to learn an animal. So we're going to walk you through that. When it comes to that style hunting, again, whether you're low on time or not hunting a particular animal, we really generalize everything. So when you go out scouting, you still have to learn the land. You still have to know where the bedding ground is, where the food is, and where the water is. Because again, it's always going to be that relationship. But anywhere you go, you're going to have a bedding zone that they're going to utilize during the day. You're going to have feed, which they hit usually early and late in the day and throughout the night. And then they're always going to hit water, especially in most of our hunting seasons as the animals are migrating around, as well as dealing with temperature, and especially around rut times. Again, they have to drink. It's one of those things that they absolutely have to do. So you have to still know those 3 options of the bedding, the food, and the water. In general, again, we hardly have time or we're just chasing general stuff. You still have to know that relationship. But when scouting animals, because that's what we're in, phase 2, it's all about the animal. When scouting animals in the general idea, you're just trying to learn the general concepts. Instead of saying, hey, it's about this particular animal, which we're going to talk about later on, in the general, you're just saying, hey, generally, these animals are up until what time in the morning. They're generally open till 8 a.m. and then these animals filter off into their bedding grounds. And hey, I see them again in their food areas or in the open at 5 p.m. So you're getting general concepts of that. You're getting general ideas of, hey, every bull I see in this valley is what I would consider an immature bull, or in this area, it's a very average bull. You know, hey, I'm hunting an area that has 1 million elk, 1 million deer. There's no big animals in there. I just need to know some generic. So you're just generalizing everything. Hey, general times of when they're up and when they're going to bed. General times of when you think they're going to water. General ideas of how they interact with each other and with their females. So again, in that situation, you don't have to learn every individual animal. You don't have to know exactly how many are there. You're just trying to generalize it. But again, everything's going to roll back to the focus of that scouting the land. So if you're brand new, hey, I haven't done anything. This is the first live feed I've watched. This is the first video I've heard. You got to know the feed area, so you got to know that green grass. You more importantly, you got to know the water. The water's huge. Whether it's a creek, a pond, a wallow, a mud puddle, whatever the case, you have to know where they're going to get some water. And you have to know where they're bedding. You know, for some situations, it's going to be bedded, you know, on an elk on dark, nasty, deep timber. You know, moist, rocky, steep. Again, somewhere where they're protected. Somewhere where nothing's going to sneak up, nothing's going to bother them. And most importantly, somewhere where it's cool. As to where mule deer, sometimes they're in that dark, nasty timber. Sometimes they're on an open hillside in a crevice. They're definitely going to be in the shade. They're definitely going to get where the sun is off them. But sometimes that can be, you know, in a plain situation, in a really thicket of weeds. I mean, a fence row, per se. There's sometimes where it's going to be in a little creek bottom, a ditch. And then there's situations in high country where it's, you know, below a bush or in dark timber. It's really going to be your scenario that dictates where these animals are bedding. But regardless, it's important for you to know where they're bedding to further this on. So again, if you're doing that general thing, you don't have a lot of time or general animals, learn the 3 keys, the food, water, and bed, and then generalize all the other behavior on the day-to-day basis. And you'll at least have an idea of where to start come hunting season. So that's kind of the idea. You don't have to panic. Hey, you know, he keeps talking about learning the animals. I don't know the animals. I don't know how many animals. I don't know how they act. That's okay. Just generalize everything, build a rough concept of some timings of when they're moving around and some general, you know, daily behavior per se, and you'll be locked in there. So that's the first scenario that we're talking about, just the generalizing. Number 2 is people talk about the limited area to hunt. So I talk to a lot of people that say, you know, my family has property. I'm going to hunt my property. I love the idea of private land. Now, I personally don't do a lot of private land hunting, but I get it. You have a ranch to hunt, you want to utilize it. Or your physical ability does not allow you to hunt certain areas. I talk to a lot of people that say, hey, I can get out of my truck, I'm good for a mile. After that, my knees give out. Or after that, you know, my heart can't handle it. No worries. I get it. There's always things that will possibly, you know, keep you in one area. Whether that's property that you want to hunt because it's, you know, your granddad's land, or it's an area that you've always hunted with family, whatever the case may be. If you are limited in area, you can't scout a whole zone or a unit. You're focused on one particular area. Generally speaking, I don't put as much focus on the animals. You know, again, we're talking phase 2, it's all about the animals, but in that situation, it almost rolls into the generalizing. So you're learning, again, the key areas of the area in which you're hunted if you're limited to. You want to know the food, want to know the water, want to know the bedding, or maybe a migration to or from those. And then you're basically going to be limited to hunting the animals that happen to be there during the hunting season in which you're on. So, you know, you might scout a big animal, but he might move one drainage over by the time hunting comes around, and if you're not willing to go to that animal or you can't get to that animal, you're forced to hunt the animals that are in the area that you're hunting. So again, you have to just generalize things out, but anytime that you're going to generalize things out, you're paying attention to the animal habitat and behavior, but again, it's going to be more about the things that are going to always be there for you, which is going to be that food, water, and bedding zone. So again, it rolls right back to the focus point of the daily habits, and then you're going to jump in there and hunt the animals in which you can. So that's kind of the idea of scenario number 2. The idea of scenario number 3 is, hey, I'm the do-it-yourself hunter. I want a big bull because I want to brag to my buddies, or a big buck because I want to brag, or hey, it's a trophy situation. I've always wanted that animal that I can mount on my wall. Or for me personally, you know, people ask, like, Nate, you know, all you do is hunt these big animals. You're a trophy hunter. We don't agree with that. To be totally honest, it has nothing to do with the trophy hunter mentality. I absolutely do love to chase the biggest animals in my area. But to be honest with you, the main reason for that, I love the challenge. I love what we're doing right now. I like to build that relationship. I want to start watching these animals right now, learn everything about them, and then have that opportunity to chase one individual animal. It sounds crazy. It's frustrating, it's hard, and it drives you nuts. I mean, coming up this fall, I'm an absolute basket case. I mean, you find the big buck of a lifetime, the bull of a lifetime, a giant bear. And, I mean, literally, you lose sleep at night. You're so worried. Is another hunter going to find him and scare him off? Is he going to get hit by a car? Is a mountain lion going to get him? Whatever the case may be. It literally kind of takes over your life. But on the other side, that the idea and the concept of finding an animal, scouting that animal, learning that animal, and taking an animal that is extremely smart. The younger animals have had 3, 4, 5 years to live. They've built that education. They're hard to hunt, but you start chasing 7, 8, 9-year-old animals, that are just peaked out. They've been through all the ruts. They've seen all the rough winters. They've been chased by hunters. There's a whole new element to that chase, and that chase is what's addicting, and that chase and that addiction is what gets to me. So again, yes, they're trophy animals. Yes, I'm probably a trophy hunter because I'm chasing giant animals. But it's not about that. It's about the opportunity of finding those animals, building that relationship. You talk to fly fishermen, and they're like, there's nothing better than tying my own fly and catching a fish on my own fly. There's just something rewarding. Or, hey, I'm a traditional stick bow hunter. I make my own arrows, and there's something about taking that animal. It's the same thing with like a trophy situation or chasing big animals. I love to learn that relationship, find those big animals, and then go hunt that individual animal. So for me personally, that's what I love to do. I love to take a situation on public land, fair chase, or even if it's not, an easy to draw over the counter unit. It's something where you're getting a tag with a couple points and you're chasing these animals that other people are paying $20,000 to go on guided hunts for. It's a situation of everybody sitting here right now and, hey, you're from the East Coast. I've dreamed of killing a big 350 bull, but I can't afford the guided hunt. And I'm thinking to myself, I can never do it. You can definitely do it. You put in the hard work, put in the concepts of scouting thoroughly, and all of a sudden you can find yourself in that situation of a do-it-yourself hunt and literally harvesting the animal of your dreams. So that's what it's about for me. And through that, where I'm at with my scouting is I pick those animals. So again, I find an individual animal and I learn everything there is to know about that animal to my best knowledge. And whether I'm out scouting daily, a couple times a week, once a week, or a couple times a month, I try to find the select few animals, 3, 4 animals, maybe 5 if I'm lucky. And I learn everything about that animal. Now again, sometimes they disappear, you never see them again, and it's frustrating, and again, you lose sleep. But there's something about trying to keep up with an animal, staying on that animal, and learning everything about that animal. And the things I'm looking for, some of the top 3, it's all about behavior. The more you know about this animal, the more you can anticipate their moves. If you can anticipate their moves, it's so much easier to get in there and make that shot and make that kill and put that animal on the ground. So again, if you're just on a whim, you run into an animal and you go in there and hunt it, we make those bad decisions, we push the envelope, and we're unsuccessful. As opposed to if you have the knowledge, hey, I know he's going to do this, I know I don't have a chance when he does that, let's back off and hunt him another day, another hunt, morning, afternoon, a week from now, whatever the case may be. But if you don't have that education, you can't make those decisions, so therefore a lot of times unknowingly we make bad decisions. So things I look for: number 1, I love to know if the animal's shy, scared, the general thing. So talking about shy and being scared, you see so many bulls or bucks that have different mentalities, and they're all different. You'll hear everybody say that, oh, all these big bucks and bulls act the same, the bears act the same. Totally not true. These animals all have their own personality, their own little characteristics. And those are the things that you have to know. You watch certain animals that are, again, talk about being shy. They stick to themselves. They don't interact with the other animals. You see that group of, males together, bucks and bulls. They're doing their thing, and this animal is always by itself. It's the lone wolf. It's always by himself. Again, whether it's big or small, just that mentality keeps them off. You see these animals that are super scared and sketchy. You have a buck bull, again, your animal of choice, and he's sitting here and a coyote walks a quarter mile away, and this animal just keeps eating, could care less. Or you have these animals that a coyote literally, again, quarter mile away, and they take off running. They're scared to death. You see an animal that walks across a meadow, and they smell everything. They look back and forth. Again, they're like, somebody crossing the street. They're scared. As you have other animals that just have that dominance that I could care less, again, whether they're big or small. But all these animals are going to have those characteristics. So number one, are they shy? Do they commingle? Are they in and out, or do they kind of stick to themselves, a little skittish? Are they scared of the general behaviors? That's the thing I really like, because again, if they're spooky on a day-to-day basis when scouting, I know when hunting them, I know they're going to be more scared of a twig snapping. I know they're going to be way more alert on a windy day. Again, anytime that they don't have the conditions right for them, they can't smell real good, they can't hear real good, I know that an animal that traditionally on a day-to-day basis is a little more spooky, I know that I don't have good odds of hunting that in rougher conditions. Again, maybe calm enough to still hunt, but not ideal. Those animals that are more skittish than not, you back away on those days that your conditions aren't perfect. Because again, they're more skittish in nature on a day-to-day basis. I always love to know if these animals are first in or out of a general feeding or bedding area. So first thing in the morning, if I'm watching a hillside and I have multiple bulls on a big ridge or whatever the case may be, or big bucks, are the animals that I'm personally chasing, the individual animals that I'm watching, are they the first one to bed down or the last one to bed down? Are they the first one to go in the timber or the last one to go in the timber? And vice versa. In the afternoon, are they the first one out or the last one out? In a relationship with females, do all the does and cows come out and then the males, or vice versa? Do the males come out first and then all that? Again, it's all the little stuff that we're like, that doesn't matter. When you're actually hunting that animal, when you need 20 more yards to make the shot, if you can predict what that animal is going to do, it makes it so much easier to be successful at the end of the day. So we're thinking about all of that. Also think about the speed at which they move. Is it a slow-paced animal? He always walks, if the does and cows get far away from him, is he speeding up to stay with them? He doesn't want to be left alone? Or can he care less? Can he let his females or other animals get a long ways off and he'll catch up to them when he can or when he does? It's all those type of things. So now, personal story, and then we're actually going to talk a couple more things, and we're going to actually take a couple questions. I know we'll have time for at least one question. This bull right here on this TV screen, if you can see it, that's my biggest bull to date. Again, public land, fair chase, really lucky, big animal. That particular animal I started scouting. I believe I started watching him in late June. I progressed, lost him actually for about 3 weeks, thought it was over, reappeared, got right back with him. This bull grew and gathered the biggest harem I've ever seen for a first-time rut. Usually we see these big bulls hold a handful of cows, some satellite bulls, when they first start kind of building their harem to rut. And then it's usually later on, as you start to go into the second heat of these cows, when they get these big giant harems. But regardless, this animal had a massive group of elk with him. There's 60 animals in whole early in the season, early September. So it's kind of hard hunting these animals when they're in those large groups. A lot of eyes, a lot of ears, a lot of noses. So everything going on. Season started. The first 2 days of the season, conditions weren't right. It was hot, dry, had some breeze, some wind chasing those really warm thermals. And I had done a ton of scouting. I knew everything about this bull, but I knew my timing was weak and I didn't have time to sneak in on this animal with the conditions. Again, I had 45 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon. I knew I couldn't get on this animal to make it right. The next day, the third day, I got right on top of this animal. Conditions were right. Everything was good. Had this big bull at 30 yards, full draw, but he was quartering to me a little bit more from my comfort zone. We'll definitely talk shot placement because we get a lot of questions about that further down the road here. But I wasn't comfortable with that shot. He turned and started to walk away. I actually cow called one time thinking he would stop, and when I cow called, one of his satellite bulls came right in on me. I mean, right in on me, like 4 yards away. So I had a satellite 4 yards away. This bull still wasn't quite in the right shot. Eventually, I had to let down to that full draw status. Spooked off the satellite bull. The whole harem took off. Again, my opportunity looking at a mega bull, these 380 bulls at 30 yards in a situation where a lot of guys would shoot. I didn't feel comfortable. I watched this bull of a lifetime take off running, but it just didn't happen. I was close, but again, the cow call to try to stop him, called in a bull, just bad luck. Regardless, I got on this bull, sat on the spotting scope, found out where he went, talked about the plan A, B, and C. He rolled right back into a spot where I had scouted. I knew the area. He went right into basically a secondary spot since I pushed him out of his number one spot. Got on him the next day. And actually, same thing. Got them in the morning, couldn't quite get the shot off, and I was actually sitting there on a hillside across from the bull, 500 yards away, watching these animals bedded, and actually had another hunter come in on me. Scariest moment of my life. I was so scared. You know, I had 3 months scouting this thing, knew this bull, and I watched a guy walk up from below me. And he actually had a friend with him that was kind of on my hillside, and he was watching the whole hunt. And I went and talked to his friend, and I said, "Man, what's he going to do?" And he goes, "Oh, he's a good world class caller. He'll have no problem." And this particular bull didn't like bugles. You could cow call to him all day long, but if you got close and you bugled to this animal, he would panic and absolutely take off. So it was one of those situations that I knew you couldn't bugle. So I asked the guy. I said, "Hey, if he's a great caller," I said, "if you can contact him or whatever," I said, "tell him not to bugle to these animals. If he bugles to this bull, he's gone." And this guy, fairly cocky, he said, "Don't worry, he's got it down." I was concerned, so I actually started booking it. This guy was still a long ways from the bull, but I figured if he pushed him, they would go up canyon. I swung way around this mountain. Obviously lost sight of everything, couldn't tell what was going on, but I got way around this mountain, and sure enough, I look up, and here comes this whole harem. 50, 60 animals come pouring over, trickling over. Assuming that he, probably spooked him. I saw the big bull come over. Knew for sure he didn't get a shot on that one. The animal settled down at the bottom. I cow called, which I knew the bull would respond to. Knew he couldn't bugle to him. I actually called the bull into 37 yards, made the shot, and got the bull on the ground. But again, little details that I knew how these animals acted. I could predict their every move. And in a 4-day hunt, I put the bull of a lifetime on the ground. And I can promise there's no way I had a chance at that animal without learning the day-to-day habits. So again, for me personally, chasing those big bulls, it's all about the small details that make me successful in learning everything there is to know about those animals. The last thing we're going to talk about here with those animals, while scouting these animals, I try to scout in every conditions possible. I want to scout on a cloudy day. I want to scout on a rainy day. I want to scout on a windy day. I try to do as much scouting in real conditions as possible. We're going to talk about that later on here in the next couple shows. But so many people scout on one day, think they know everything about the animals, and then the next day it's cloudy, rainy, windy, and the conditions totally change, and the animals change with those conditions. So I try to find myself, if I look at a 10-day weather forecast, try to do a couple days where you have changing conditions so you can learn how these animals act in different conditions. So that way, when you have those conditions during hunting season, again, you can predict what these animals are doing. So again, that's going to really make it easy on you. Guys, to rest my voice real quick, we're going to take one question, and we're going to kind of wrap it up, and I can tell you why I'm waiting for this question. It's all about game care in the field. So we're going to have a taxidermist with us. We're going to be talking about how to deal with this animal once you put it on the ground and break you into, again, more scouting tips of where we've been, where you should be as a hunter. But we're going to take a question real quick.
Eric asks, what would you look for in elk country when the highest peaks are at 10,000 feet?
So what do we look for in elk country when my highest peaks are 10,000 feet? Same type of thing that we've been talking about. So I would look at your highs and lows. So if your highs are 10,000 feet, I would try to find your low elevation. Let's say that's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. And I would break your zone into different areas. So I would say, hey, my 7,000, 8,000 is one area. My 8 to 9 is one area. My 9 to 10 is another area. So I'm going to find the food, bedding, and water in all those zones. Try to find the animals or a couple of animals in each of those zones and learn the habits in each of those. Now, planning a hunt accordingly, let's say you have a September tag of whatever weapon choice. I would start off in the highest country possible, assuming it's going to be colder. You're going to get more rutting activity, more animal activity in general, whether it's not elk and you're hunting deer. You're going to get more activity in those colder temperatures. So I would always plan on hunting my higher elevation and working my way down as the season progresses. But again, it's going to be all about your style as a hunter as well as the animals you find. So again, it'd be more style. I'm going to do more of a spot and stalk in the higher country, cooler, where the animals are going to probably be active longer. I'm probably going to utilize the lower country, being warmer temperatures, and possibly hunt water, which is going to be their weak link. So the lower that elevation, the hotter it's going to be, the more they're going to have to drink water. So maybe instead of once a day in the high country, they might drink twice a day in that low country. So again, you're still going to want to learn the relationship between food, bedding, and water in like 3 different zones, 3 different elevations, and then come right before the hunting season. You're going to take everything you've learned and hopefully piece it into a puzzle to be successful. But again, personally speaking, I would probably go highest to lowest throughout the season. But again, on an abnormally warm temperature, water is something that has to happen. So a lot of times you can take advantage of that lower country and hit that water. So again, hopefully that helps it out, but breaking it down into 3 different elevations is definitely going to help you out, because what the animals are doing at low is not what they're going to be doing at the higher elevation. So break it down to a couple sections, scout them all separately, and learn the individual behavior per zone or per elevation, and that should help you out. Guys, I thank you so much for joining me again. I am Nate Zielinski, coming to you live from the Bowtech Archery page, the Diamond Archery page, Tightline Outdoors, as well as Nate Zielinski. And again, the Nate Zielinski Facebook page is brand new. Make sure you give that a like. Share all your friends. As we go through these 15 to 20 hunts this coming fall, we'll be walking you through those. A lot of live streams, a lot of videos on that page there. So again, all about that Nate Zielinski. Make sure you join all the other live feeds this coming Wednesday. So again, Wednesday is a big day for live feeds. You've got Randy Newberg as well as Chef Collins. Definitely things you want to watch on those live feeds there. And again, I will be joining you next week, Monday evening at 7 p.m. Pacific, where again we're going to have a taxidermist in studio. We're going to be talking about taxidermy, game care, again how you can make sure you make the most out of those animals in the field if you do want that kind of amount of a lifetime. But again, we'll walk you through that as well as more scouting tips next week. We'll see you there, guys. Thank you so much. I'm Nate Zielinski.